All right, class. I just wanted to go through a couple things here when it comes to the UV portion. You know, do some UV unwrapping on this dyno here. Not gonna do the plinth. That one's kind of. I think that one's pretty. Most of us got that one. But I think the dyno we should walk through a couple parts. All right. So first, the instruction says we want to unwrap our everything about up to here. So I'm just going to drag select marquee here. Yep, make sure, just double checking, holding my option key, left mouse button down, just double checking here. I'm going to go up to UV editor. And looks like my particular UV editor is UV editor window is floating here. So I'm going to just left click and then kind of mouse around here. So it kind of like snaps right there. And for some reason on my window, mine is my UV toolkit is really big. But I'm just going to close this. I'm going to right click, close my UV toolkit. So once I'm in my 3D modeling process, now that I've modeled my object, now it's time to unwrap my object, right? So I'm going to go back to face mode here. And I'm going to go up here to create. And I'm going to do a cylindrical, or excuse me, a planar map in the x-axis. So I'm going to click that option box there and make sure x-axis is selected and hit apply. I'm going to close this, or just kind of, actually I'm going to move this over here. And there you go. So now we have our dyno tail all together here. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is just to kind of see this a little bit clearer. I'm going to go turn on my shaded UVs. We can see right now that this is purple. We don't want purple. Purple means that the UVs are reversed and correct, and we don't want that. So I'm going to go to edge mode, select those bottom rows right here underneath the tail. We can see it here. And for some people, it actually might be better for you to see how I'm selecting the UVs here. So let me actually do that real quick. Just move that. So I could have selected it here at the bottom, but I'm going to select one here, and then at the very end, holding shift, double click the end, and make that same selection there. So we're going to basically skin this dyno underneath, right? Because the camera, when you're watching a dyno, typically it's going to be, you're not really going to see that underbelly in that same kind of way. So you want to keep those seams somewhere where they're least visible, right? And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to go up here to cut. Or excuse me, it says cut so, and you just click cut here. Next thing you're going to do is double click on the shell. All right, now that we made that first cut, I'm gonna just hit Q, make sure I'm out of all the tools. So the slides say that you need to hold the right mouse button just in case you don't see this radio menu pop up. Make sure you just hit Q. When in doubt, Q it out, jump out all your tools if something's not quite right. If you're still doing the same thing it did before, make sure you hit Q, jump out all those tools. Cool. So I hit Q. I'm going to right mouse button hold. And I'm going to go to UV or UV shell. Actually, I'm going to go to UV, excuse me. Now I'm going to double click. You can see there over there in the 3D view. I'm going to shift right mouse button hold like the instruction says. And I'm going to go over here to unfold and then unfold again. What else I can do, less steps. After I select the whole UV shell, go up here to modify and just click UV or unfold, excuse me. Or you just saw that, Command U. So I might use Command U a little bit more. I think that's gonna work out pretty nice. All right, let's work on that body next. Again, going back to face mode here. Just gonna scooch this over. I think I can hold Shift, click an adjacent face, kind of loop it there. Maybe not on that face. Looks like we want to grab everything but the arms, including the, I guess like the little shoulder area, you know. Excuse my blender clicks there. Looks like we're getting the back area here as well. Just making a selection. I'm going to check that undercarriage. Oh, missing some faces. There we go. Looking good, looking good. It should sort of look like a jacket here, right? And according to our instructions, we're going to go to create planar. Just make sure it's in the x-axis. Looks like I got the window floating over here. Just click apply. I'll close that. And don't forget, if you don't want to keep going into this menu, you can always go over here to, I believe it's under tools. Aha, yes, it is under tools at the top, excuse me. Show UV toolkit. And kind of like our modeling toolkit, we have a little list here of all the things that we typically would use in our UV processes. Again, similar to our modeling toolkit. So I could undo that and show you that. Go over here to create, and would you look at that? It has all our cool options. If we hold Shift while selecting pretty much any button in Maya, you get an option box. So I'm going to hold Shift while clicking planar, and then that option box pops up there. Then I can click apply. Our next instruction is to create seams along the bottom, select UVs, and unfold, scale, and move them out the way. So let's do that. So again, we could do that in 3D view, but this time I'm going to hold get into edge mode and do that along the bottom here. And just to make sure, just going to check my work. Looks good to me, matches that tail back there. And I'm going to go up here to cut instead of going up here. I'm going to go to cut. Kind of bolds up there, right? I'm going to select UV, double click on that, go down to unfold. Again, I can do a Command U, or I can come over here to our UV toolkit friend. And now we have that unwrapped there. So I can scale that a little and just kind of move it out the way, right? Somewhere over here, because we're going to put everything back in here later. Just moving it out the way for now. All right, let's do the same thing with the neck here. Again, if you want to make a selection like that quickly, we're going to click on one of these faces, and in any adjacent face, we're going to double click on it while holding Shift to make that loop selection. So if I click here, go this way, or here, and go this way. Again, holding Shift. After you select one face, just pick any of these adjacent faces to make that loop selection. So do that really quickly. Planar. Again, we want that down the middle. Switch to edge mode. And I believe it's Shift X to make a cut. Or again, go up here. Cut. Double click on those, that UV to select the whole thing. and then unfold that. And again, just move that out the way. All right, so now let's go to edge mode, and we're gonna move and sew all of these pieces together into one contiguous shell. So I'm gonna go to edge mode, and then click here all the way, holding shift. So once I select this one edge, you should see this other one selected over here. I'm gonna go up here to the cut sew options, and we have move and sew. I'm gonna do the same thing with the neck. Actually, I'm going to select these faces here. Since my last action was move and sew, I'm just going to hit G. There we go. It kind of looks a little gnarly here. That's okay. I'm going to hold shift right mouse button. Excuse me, just right mouse button. Go to our UV over here and just double click. And let's unfold that again. Under modify, unfold. Yeah, that looks way better. And let's just move that one out the way, right about here somewhere. And I'm gonna scale it down a little bit. Cool. Alrighty. So now it's time to UV unwrap the legs. I'm just gonna do one on video real quick. Ooh. So let's hop back into face mode here. Again, we just want all of these selected, everything above the foot. Oh, excuse my blender errors. Just gonna select everything like this. Let's see if that works out for me a little bit quicker. There we go. Much nicer, much quicker. Oh, I'm gonna hold control to deselect all this that I accidentally selected. I'm just gonna finish that out. Oh, missed the face. Holding control to deselect. Oh, one more face. I'm glad I checked. And we're gonna unwrap. Do a planar unwrap in that x-axis. Let's check our UV window. There's our UV shell. And it looks like on our instructions that we're gonna cut a seam in the inside near the back. So let's do that. Switch to edge mode. And we're gonna grab a seam about here to here. And again, I'm holding shift while I do that. Let me go a little bit higher here. Grab this, holding shift, double click. And now that I've made that selection in my 3D view, I can come over here and just go cut. Switch to UV mode, double click, and unfold. Do that same thing for that other leg. All right, let's unwrap these feet. So first thing I'm going to do is select that whole foot there, as you can see. Bring this over. And then I'm going to hold control to deselect and try to grab everything but that base. And I might have to do a couple passes here. See if how I did. Looks like I took a little too much. I just want that bottom part selected. And again, like the instruction says, let's do a projection. Not in the X, but the Y. Let's do that same thing with the rest of the foot. I'm just going to drag select over the whole foot. I can deselect the bottom of the foot in the UV mode, so that's really helpful. And I can do another projection in the Y. I'm going to unfold and select this and unfold this. And there you go. I'm going to do the same thing to the other foot. All right. I got the head selected, everything but the inside of the mouth right there. Kind of got that edge lip there as well. We're going to go planar in the X again. Kind of got something like this, right? So I say on here, because I don't want the seams along the front of the head, I selected 3 edges along the bottom and 2 along the top, so that when it unfolds the head, when we unfold the head, they stretch out. So let's go ahead in the 3D view, find those 2 edges at the top, and the 1, 2, 3 at the bottom, and cut. And let's double click. Let's do a Command U to unfold. And there's our smiley lizard there. Let's move that to the side. So to get the inside of the mouth the way I did it, I kind of reselected everything in the head, and then I'm going to like deselect the face in the UV mode, and now I have that mouth selected really quickly. Honestly, you can just go in there and click around and do it that way too. So I'm just gonna do a planar on this one. It should work out when I unfold it. Yep. This is pretty much what I want here. Yeah, let's move that to the side. Maybe not that big. All right, so really quickly, we're going, I did this arm over here. Next, I'm gonna do this other arm here. Just gonna move this up. Just continue to select the rest of these faces here. I'm gonna hold Control, deselect the hand, minding my marquee, just to make sure I'm deselecting all of these faces. After that, I'm gonna do a planar projection, option box. Yeah, the x-axis is fine. Should look something like this. I think I'm gonna put a seam near his, closest to his chest. Looks like it's only 3 edges here to his wrist and to the body. So select those 3 edges. Let me make sure. Yeah, that's probably, that looks good. Come over here and just cut. Go to UV, double click, unwrap, or unfold, excuse me. Move that to the side. I'm going to do the same thing with these hands here. It's very similar to the feet. Select those bottom faces. I wonder if I can do 2 at once here. Oops. We're going to do a wire projection. Looks a little jank. Let's unfold it. Definitely looks a little different than our than our example image. Definitely looks different than our example image. It almost looks more spread out here. But that's okay. We'll adjust it in the vertex. Yeah, it's a little different, but what are you gonna do? All right, next, go back to face mode. Grab these hands. I'm gonna deselect the arms. Do the same thing over here. Select the faces, hold control and deselect these arms to make a really quick selection. Then I'm also going to hold control and deselect the bottoms here in the UV mode. Now for the hands, a little tricky, but I think the algorithm is different since the last time I made this, so it's kind of unfolding. Oh, excuse me, it's unfolding and unwrapping this very differently. Sort of differently. So, but yeah, let's try it anyway. Let's do a Y planar unwrap. And unfold. And I think if we, to get something similar, I believe if we cut down on here, we'll get more idealistic results. Yes. So it wasn't explicit on the slides, but if you cut here on the back here, you'll be able to unfold that properly and create a similar shape to what I created. Now this here, it's still not giving us the results we want. Again, I'm not sure exactly why it didn't do that. It worked before, just not working on Maya 2024 maybe. I'm not sure. You can always go into vertex mode and sort of move these into place to fit our image, which you'll see here in a moment. All right, now that everything is unwrapped, we're gonna go up here to modify, and we've been using unfold for all sorts of cool stuff, but this time we're gonna go to the option box and we're gonna make sure layout UVs. It used to say pack on there, but now it says layout UVs is checked, and then we're gonna click apply, close that, and really nicely it packs our UV shell pretty nicely. And we can check the texel density. There's a little checkerboard pattern here. That is pretty nice, right? And now we have a packed UV shell. And looks like something's peeking here, so we can like sort of scale this down. We don't want this one showing up, so we're gonna just a little bit. And there you go. You have a packed UV island, or UV map, excuse me. All right, we made it to the last step. So what you need to do now is we're going to go into object mode, add a material, go down to assign favorite material. I'm just gonna add a Lambert, keep it simple. And next to that color node here, I'm gonna click, we're always gonna click file. And now we get this, and we're going to change this to our dino texture. There it is. Perfect. I'm just going to close this. If it's not showing up, make sure you hit 6 on your keyboard. And as you can see, this looks like a bit of a mess. Kind of looks cool, but it is a bit of a mess here. So what I'm going to do is kind of move these to the side here. This is already textured. We just need to line those UV shells up with the texture. Get it as close as possible. Please don't be afraid to go to vertex mode, and if you need to like select the edge and try to actually go to UV shell, then vertex mode, or UV, you want to move those individual points, you can do that. And again, that's going under UV, not UV shell, or excuse me, not vertex, go to UV shell, and then you can manipulate that point. And we'll do that with the hands here in a minute. I'm just gonna put this into position. Let me rotate it just a little bit. Scale up. Bam. And that's pretty much, yeah, that's pretty right. Let's do the same thing with this face. That one's pretty identifiable. I'll rotate that a little bit. Let's try to move it like this. Yeah, the algorithm has definitely changed because typically this just kind of works. But it's okay. Let me smooth some more. There we go. I smoothed it a little bit and it looks a little bit better. Just gonna rotate this way. It's kind of like just like a puzzle piece, just trying to find all the edges. Double click. Just moving the mouthpiece here. Get that about right. Not being too perfect for the video. Actually, I'm going to cut down the middle here. I believe on this one, Shift X. And then unfold that. Should have done that before, but that's okay. just working through this. We got the feet here. Oh, these might actually go over here for this example. Kind of doesn't matter since they're like the bottom of the feet, you know? And last one. Last few, I should say. Just rotate that one upside down. Here's the other hand. Let's go ahead and cut maybe this edge. Shift X. Again, the algorithm is a little different when it comes to the UVs because it's close but not perfect. All right, so what I would do is go to UV mode, just sort of kind of move these into place. It might look a little stretched on the dyno, but you know, I'm not gonna grade you on that part. It's all good. Just kind of moving these into place. There we go. Last but not least, just kind of scale these up. Make sure it doesn't go to this, and then it might actually go over here. Again, might be a little off, but that's okay. Just kind of get those over that area, and again, go to UV mode. And move that up there. Move that about here. Move that here. We'll leave that there for now. And let's, all right. I guess one amendment I want to do to this is, again, since this didn't really like deform correctly or unfold correctly, we're going to just have to manually move these verts in the UV mode into the correct color space. Incidentally, since this isn't like it's pretty tiny, it's underneath, and the texture information isn't too unique, this is going to kind of work out. If this was more detailed and a bigger piece of the UV shell, we would have to do something different. But you're not really going to run into this very specific problem like this. This is more so instructor Mike just made a little mistake there when it comes to versions. So I'm watching my 3D view here. Make sure your shaded is not on. And I'm just seeing if it lines up with the rest of it. And it pretty much does. All right. I can move these around. And looks like some of that green is still touching there. Oh, that's that over here. So we'll take this and just kind of move this over, rotate it, maybe scale it down a little bit. Yeah, that looks a little better. And this is where we got to come adjust it because it looks a little off here. I'm just going to move this over to here. Again, you won't be doing this that often in the actual pipeline workflow. Yeah, that looks better. Why is this one giving me some issues? Let's see, where is this face? Oh, this is the bottom here, duh. Just kind of move this. Let's see what happens. That looks a lot better. Drag this one down here. Maybe, there we go. Much nicer. Again, not too perfect. I think I'm getting a little too particular. And just make sure there's, what I'm really looking for is make sure there's no red like me. Make sure there's no red peeking out there. Make sure that's all resolved. So move those verts as need be. And then turn in that dyno.